Okay. All right. Sorry about that. I figured it out, but it took me a minute. So, okay. So, anyways, that was Huntington's chorea, a horrible, horrible disease. There's no known cure for it right now. So these patients are obviously huge fall risks. You know, it affects, they can't work, they can't drive, and they typically end up like that, and it just gets worse and worse. And sadly there's not a cure, so hopefully we'll find a cure for that someday. The next thing, and I talked about this a little bit in the last lecture in chapter 69, is ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. And I kind of told you a lot about that. This is Lou Gehrig, and he's a famous baseball player, and he ended up having this disease. And Steve Hawkins now, I'm sure you all have heard of him. And so that's just, like I was telling you earlier, it's just a complete destruction of neurological functioning, and the patient just becomes completely paralyzed, but their mind is 100% fine. It's like a locked-in syndrome. The patient can't move. It's just, again, no known cure for that, but that's a bad one. Muscular dystrophies, your book talks a little bit about this. Muscular dystrophies, there's a lot of work and research being done right now. There's a lot of organizations trying to figure out how to solve this problem. Muscular dystrophies, you can see here in a normal biceps the size of the muscles, and then in somebody with MD, just a significant reduction in atrophy of the muscles, and it also affects the skeletal system. So you can see in this young man who has MD, has significant alterations in the bone structure, and these people they typically don't live very long. They have a lot of respiratory problems. You can see because they get all skeletally they get I don't want to say wadded up, but they get a disproportion, and so they've got a lot of back problems. They have a difficulty expanding their lungs for respiration. So and children are usually born with this. There's not really a genetic component to it that anybody can put their finger on, but kids are born with this, and your goal as a nurse is to keep them as active and stretched and mobile as possible to prevent the severe atrophy of their joints. But again, another horrible disease that we don't yet have a cure for. And then finally, I don't know why your book doesn't talk about cerebral palsy, because that's another big, and maybe you guys talk about this in pediatrics, but it's a neuro disorder, and there's several different kinds of cerebral palsy. Oftentimes there is a link between amount of oxygen in delivery and childbirth and cerebral palsy, but that's not 100% confirmed. But these kids also have major neuro disorders. They can be ataxic, where they have real stiff, jerky movements. They have some tremors and shaking and things like that. Real tense, contracted muscles. So that's cerebral palsy, and that's another. I'm not going to test you on that just because your book doesn't mention it, but I wanted you to know what that is as a nurse. I think before you graduate, you need to at least have heard what cerebral palsy is. So I think that's it. So that was it for the neuro-onc and the neurodegenerative disorders. So there you go. Let me know if you have any questions. So all right, see you in class.